Five whole days of environmental justice. We teach you to know what is environmental justice. If you missed that, go back and look at it again. Right now, we're going to turn it over to the Black Farmers Collective. Mr. Ray Williams is Executive Director of the Black Farmers Collective. Mr. Nick Jeffries, Community Organizer for the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, which will also be doing another panel a little bit later on this week, and Melanie Ocasio from I Urban Teen. Mr. Williams, take it away.
Well, thank you for having us here. Black Farmers Collective started in 2018 with a mission to help create a Black-led food system in Seattle. We're inclusive, and we built this system with partnerships, and that's why we're here today with the Urban League and I Urban Teen to talk about urban farming, the connection between urban farming and community health, the connection between community health and environmental justice, the connection between environmental justice and justice. One of our first partners was I Urban Teen, in a partnership to do education around urban farming and science. And we're lucky enough to have Melanie here to talk about really an extension of that program that started about 5 years ago. And that Melanie will be talking a bit about the new urban farm that they're putting in. Nick is here because the Urban League has been a great partner with Black Farmers Collective. We recently put on the third annual Black Earth Day, where we invite all folks to come out and celebrate environmentalism and celebrate environmental justice, to think about what is the role of all communities, but especially the Black community, in raising up issues that are really affecting the Black community and how we can really solve them. I'll give a little introduction about what we do, and we'll let the other folks do that, and then we'll just have a little conversation about, what is environmental justice to us? How do we feel the community can get involved in that, uplifting the community work around that. Black Farmers Collective has really three pillars of our work right now. We have an urban farm in central Seattle, Yes Farm. We have a rural farm we're leasing from King County in Woodinville, where we do production, and then we also raise up other farmers. And then we have a third program that's called Leveling the Fields in Western Washington, where we reach out to underserved farmers and try to connect them with federal resources. So if you live in central Seattle, we'd love to have you visit Yes Farm. If you want to volunteer or think about getting some food from us out in the Woodinville farm, we'd love to hear from you. And if you know any farmers that want to get more federal support, please contact us at Black Farmers Collective. I'm going to pass it on over, I think, to Melanie to talk a little bit about their new farm and their new program.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ray. So my name is Melanie Ocasio. I'm the supervising program manager at I Urban Teen, which is a nonprofit organization focused on bringing STEM opportunities to underrepresented youth in Seattle, California, Oregon, Texas. And we're really focused on bringing these opportunities to children focused on STEM and arts. And so in 2019, that's where, our organization met Ray. We partnered to create the Yes Farms over at Yes Terrace, and that was funded through KCD grant. And so together we created this Yes Farms farm for the community. And then from there, we really wanted to expand the eSTEM program, which I'm in charge of, in Seattle. And so we're really trying to expand this eSTEM program to include more technical environmental education to high schoolers, but we're really open to anybody in the community and younger students as well. And so one of our programs that we're working on right now is down at Rainier Community Center. We got the donation land from Seattle Parks and Recreation's Urban Food System program. And so we have an entire plot of land that I have designed to create a STEM-focused community garden. And so what that means is we're going to bring in people from high school, middle school, elementary school to give them this hands-on opportunity to environmental sciences. Some workshops, some brief workshops that we'll be working on include hydroponics, soil testing contamination, laboratory sciences, GIS. We really want to showcase how in-depth environmental science can be and not just surface level fluff, And so I'm going to hand it over to Nick to give a little brief overview on his organization as well.
So my name is Nick. I'm one of the community outreach organizers at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. And our organization has been in Seattle since 1930. And since then, it has served Black, Brown, and Indigenous community, pretty much all community members in the Seattle metropolitan area, in the focus areas of housing, public health, education, and most recently, advocacy and civic engagement. And so our goal is really to bring these issues to light for community, really advocate for community, really uplift community, and let community know that we're here to assist them and that the Urban League is there to really, really, really provide an amazing foundation for all community members.
Thanks. So I'll get into a bit about trying to connect food justice and environmental justice. When we were getting together to start the Black Farmers Collective, I think one of our main focuses was this concept of trying to help folks grow a little bit of their own food. I think we, look at statistics and health disparities, especially in a Black community, is really don't have great health outcomes compared to lots of other groups. And so I'm a former science teacher, and one of my thoughts is if we can help folks grow a little bit of their own food, that'll be great for their health. And so we started with how to support folks for growing their own food. That got us into larger spaces where we could actually grow some food and get that out to organizations. So we have some partnerships where we distribute our food to folks. And then that moved sort of to this next level around economic health. Right? So growing food, growing a little of your own food can help you physically because you're eating better, right? You're actually eating there. The community that's built around the growing of food with other folks, right, helps with your socio-emotional health, helps with your connection to community. So you're eating better, you get exercise, you actually have a sense of community. I think working the land for me has been a great stress relief. We're out there, weeding a row of collards. You're not in your mind thinking about your problems, and so that's really another advantage of really trying to get folks out there. Unfortunately, in the United States and around the world, there's been a negative association between Black people and farming, being on the land. We're growing up in school. Oftentimes, the only thing we're really taught about is the first Africans to be here were captured and brought over. And there's a history of pain and abuse, right, on farming. And so one of the things we're trying to do is change that narrative, right? You look out at the typical farmer picture, and you might not see yourself. So I like to throw in a bit of history about environmental justice, about urban farming, and that you think back to George Washington Carver out of Tuskegee, and he was really, not only did he come up with 200 different products for peanuts, right? But he actually was in the forefront of this regenerative farming movement that we hear today. He was helping farmers regenerate the land that was depleted because of the cotton growing and other things. So he really came up with a lot of the things that we look today as sort of new age environmental work. I also want to bring up Booker T. Watley, who was a colleague of his at Tuskegee, and in order to promote farming and economic development for farmers, they came up with a clientele service. Forgetting the name now, but it was actually a program where folks would pay the farmers up front for some shares of food. They could buy the materials they needed to get the plant, and then throughout the season, this food would be distributed to community. Well, we do that now as a community supported agriculture, CSA boxes, and many of our listeners actually may be supporting small farms by buying those community boxes. You know, I bring up those two names as really Black contributors to the food system in the United States, right? And that we should be proud of that, and that we have, and we love folks that just really could sort of continue that system. So that's a piece of work that we do, is to try to educate. We can also teach you how to farm and give you opportunities to grow food. We have community beds over at Yes Farm. Yes Farm is actually in the Yesser Terrace neighborhood. And so if folks are interested in getting involved with that, I guess I'll throw out the best way to get in touch with us is at connect@blackfarmerscollective.org. And we'll repeat that at the end. And I think we all could share our contacts at that time. But I think urban farming can be not only a great way to get food on the plate, a great way to build community, a great way for everyone to learn their connection, the connection between nature and themselves, right? And I guess I'll stop there in terms of that urban farming. I'll let the other folks talk a bit about the connection between their work and the topic, Earth Day and environmental justice.
Yeah, for iUrban Teens specifically, my background is in conservation biology. And so coming on to the team, one of the aspects that I wanted to bring on is to integrate nature and human society and education, and really focus on bringing back these green spaces into the urban development. Right, so specifically for the plot that I'm working on, it is a capped landfill. And so a lot of these spaces typically turn into golf courses, playgrounds, community centers, but I want to focus on how these spaces can be turned into an environmental education workshop for everybody. And so that gives inclusivity to, you know, anybody in the neighborhood, but it really highlights the opportunities there that are perhaps not really explored as of yet. And so I really want to focus on community involvement, and these urban food systems really bring together a sense of community because they are gaining a sense of independence, their knowledge, and you know, they're having resources which are typically and historically have not been provided to them. There's a lot of changes when it comes to food deserts, and we really want to focus on giving resources to the people that really need it, right? And so another point I really want to touch on really quickly is that the hydroponic system that I'm working on with the University of Washington, it really focuses on how resources that are contaminated or resources that are not prevalent on the land, there's alternative ways to still farm to get those resources and to, you know, provide for families and for the community as well. And so specifically for hydroponics, you don't need any soil. It's just basically a plant starter into water and with some nutrients in it, and you can grow a whole garden just with that, basically. And so little resources is really needed for that to get established. And I'll let Nick talk a little bit more.
Okay, so a lot in the name of Earth Day, we recently just got done with a program called Black Earth Day, and this was on Saturday, April 20th from 11 to 2. And it was in partnership with the wonderful Rainier Avenue Radio and Black Farmers Collective. And what we try to do is raise the collective conscious, raise the awareness in community, and let community know that Black folks have been a part of environmental justice since its conception, and really educate community members on how they can partake in environmental justice, how they can uplift things that are going to help the environment. And also, my background is in education. I was formerly a middle school teacher, and that informs the way in which I interact with community, the way in which I educate community. And everybody who knows me knows I love the term Socratic seminar. I like to really have people do something that helps them learn, and not just by talking at them, by talking with them, and really helping people dig within themselves and ask the tough questions and figure out why things are the way they are. And so we had a variety of different workshops. Some of these workshops ranging from planting workshops, repotting workshops, to workshops talking about, we had a germination station talking to people about how to germinate seeds, why seeds need to be germinated, all the way to having a booth talking about voting that was facilitated by Fair Vote Washington. So a lot of our events really revolve around community education and active liberation.
Oh, great. Thanks. I was reflecting on this concept of environmental justice, and I think we often, separate that and think only of major toxic spaces, right? Superfund sites. I think to me, and I think working on the ground in community, I think environmental justice is also helping people recognize where they can actually find the benefits of being in nature. Close to the city. There's lots of studies about how folks do much better if they have some access to nature. But if you live in the city, it might be tough to get out to the country and see nature. It might be a foreign place to you. It might actually feel dangerous, right, to be out in the country. And so one of the things we try to do is create spaces within the city, and Melanie's working on a destination near the Rainier Community Center, and we have over at Yes Farm and Yesser Terrace, a space where people can come and get the benefits of nature without really being too far outside. We're actually farming the freeway right away between Yesler and Jackson, and you may not have seen the space, but I hope that if you're now that you hear that there is an urban farm there, you might want to come and visit. Right? We've had folks that have just come down and had a visit and walked through the farm just to take a look, and had commented that they felt more calm than they had when they came through there. So This is a big benefit for being down there. This is one of the reasons we do a lot of work. I think another environmental issue, really, again, is this green space, is the deconnectedness, if that's a word. I'm not sure of the different communities we have. When I-5 was put through the center of Seattle, it certainly cut through Chinatown ID. It really separated, a lot of the city. I think the early work in the city had sort of geologically moving things around has really separated some of us. And so one of the things that we're doing at Yes Farm is actually trying to connect community. We are a connecting point between First Hill and Chinatown International District. We're a connecting point between the central area and downtown Seattle. And so one of the programs that we have at Yes Farm, and I'd love to have you come and check it out, is actually a working name is called Yes Forest, and we're turning a piece of this freeway right of way, starting at Jackson Street, moving north up into the farm, into an urban forest. Right now, it's got the I like to call them the Washington Department of Transportation trees, those big deodora cedars you see along the highway, with lots of ivy and blackberries underneath. And so our project is, we're not going to take out the trees, but we are in the process of taking out the blackberries and the ivy and replacing them with native plants. So folks in the community have a place to go and experience a more natural forest space and get some of the health benefits that come out of that. That also then will be a connection, really a physical connection between the International District and the farm. And so, look forward for, look out for our efforts down there. If you're in that neighborhood and you hear about a community event on Jackson Street under the freeway around the forest, we want to extend an invitation to you for doing that. I think we're partnering with King Conservation District that's supporting us on that. We're partnering with Mountain and Sound Greenway, who has experience doing forest restoration. We're partnering with Earth Corps, that's got some youth that do forest restoration, and Earth Corps itself is actually in transition, moving to help urban farming. And so we're very excited about those partnerships that we've had. Melanie, I'm thinking really any thoughts from your conservation biology point of view about what are some of the things folks might look for in the city in terms of conservation, or any connection you see sort of to this pretty urban environment and conserving things?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ray. So I did want to highlight that soil contamination is pretty prevalent within urban areas, and Seattle is not an exception. If you are interested in starting your own urban farm, I really suggest to go to KCD. They do free soil testing for everybody. But why that's important is really because any toxicity that are in the soil are actually being uptaken by the roots of the plant. And so let's say there's heavy metal in your soil and you didn't know about it. If you consume that plant, you are consuming the heavy metal, right? And so looking for ways for restoration specifically, there are ways for you to, if you get this test done, there's a ways for you to, fix your landscape. Just because it's contaminated now doesn't mean that it will always have to be contaminated. And so there's ways such as there are bioindicators that really help you assess your land. If there's a lot of invasive species in your land, if there's plants, a lot of weeds and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of bioindicators. And then a way to do restoration is planting maybe like sunflowers. Those uptake the soil remediation into their roots. And so that when you harvest the plant, that would have to be disposed of properly. But yes, there are ways for restoration on your landscape if you want to do a traditional method. And then for alternative farming methods, garden beds are really popular. There's some in Yesler Farm and also at our park at Rainier Community Center. But garden beds are basically an above ground technique where it's either like a wooden or a metal container, which you put compost, soil really together to create this nutrient for starters, or you can even start from seeds as well. And then another type of alternative farming is hydroponics, like I briefly mentioned before. But hydroponics is really popular with leafy greens, herbs, and fruit vegetables. But they're like the root vegetables can be grown by hydroponics, but it's not really ideal specifically. But yeah, looking at what is in your area and how to really make that towards your benefit if you want to start your own urban food. And so that can really bring into community as well, right? So if you want to learn about your area, you can tell your neighbors like, hey, I just found out the soil is contaminated. Let's work together to remediate this and create a system where we're uplifting each other and creating a network that is respectful, reliable with your initiatives. And so I think that's a part that I was really want to highlight.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to, I guess, pass out a resource. So KCD is King Conservation District, and that's not to be confused with King County. It's a nonprofit organization. And they have for years offered soil testing for community gardens around the nutrients. But they've just recently added testing around typical urban pollutants. And this actually really came out of the environmental justice work of a lot of folks in the Seattle area to bring this up. I want to mention, some of the work that came out of University of Washington, Bothell, Dr. Melanie Malone. Her passion, she's a soil scientist, but her passion was supporting folks growing food in the city. Well, we want folks to grow food in the city, but here Melanie has brought up the idea that if you're growing in toxic soil, that could be not so good for you.
More harm than good.
Might be more harm than good, I think. So the idea of getting your soil tested, is a good idea. I think what we found over the years, we've been working with Dr. Malone for quite a while, is that, depending on the area, there might be quite higher testing. We tested some soil in an area that was, in a backyard next to an old garage, and it was a lot of lead in the soil. And you look up at the garage, and the old lead paint had been peeling for years. So this is a way that this might get into the soil. On the other hand, I want to still encourage folks to grow food in their soil, especially if it's not near a house, especially if you're not directly downwind from some pollutant sources, because our plants are grown and the food we grow has grown all over the place. And so I think the benefits of growing and eating fresh food, we shouldn't think, we can't do that in the city because it might be polluted. I think it's important to try to keep that in mind in terms of the sources here.
Also to highlight, there's some community partners as well that did the pea patch program. And so if you want your own plot of, good soil or above ground farming techniques such as a soil bed, those opportunities are there to have your own, space in a community garden with pea patch. It's with the Seattle Parks program. And I believe the Beacon Food Forest also has a little patch program that they do as well. Yep. So that's a good opportunity to check out your local nonprofits, your urban foods, and see if you can even join a community that's already established and learn along the way how to farm correctly, to bring in this, this continuing of sharing knowledge with minorities and other people in your community, especially.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you a question, Ray. I was like, so what advice do you, or both of you, what advice do you guys give family member, like not family, give families who are like, hey, I want to have a food garden on my property, but I don't know how contaminated or uncontaminated or healthy it's going to be to grow stuff there. Like, what advice would you give me if I was like, hey, I want to do this in my house, but I don't know if it's safe?
I think for me, if you had, if you are in a small apartment, then you're probably going to have to go out and source some compost and potting soil. And I think it would be important to go ahead and spend that little bit of extra to get organic, some soils. I think that would be great. If you have a yard and you're thinking about digging it up, then this new soil testing program, a new addition soil testing with King Conservation District, is a great way to go to try to send out a sample. They'll be able to analyze it and tell you, well, what maybe do you need to add to make the plants grow better, right? Is this too acid soil? Do you need to do something? Is there enough of the nutrients you need? Along with an analysis of some major pollutants to try to see what's going on. I think again, important to understand that eating more fresh vegetables is really great for your health, and it shouldn't be. You should not do it because you think you might have polluted soil. I think there are a lot of organizations, including the Black Farmers Collective, that you could reach out to get advice for this. I know that there's a big organization in Seattle Tilth, that has a lot of programs that can help folks grow. And I think if you want to get an idea what some of these community garden beds look like, then again, visiting Melanie's work of iUrban Teen at the Rainier Community Center, visiting the Black Farmers Collective at Yes Farm up at Yesser Terrace, and are great places to start to get ideas. Right? I think there are a lot of folks out there are willing to try to help you get started. We added add another organization that I just heard about through the Urban League putting on this Black Earth Day, which is Out the Mud.
Out the Mud.
Out the
yes.
Mud. You may know a little more about it.
Okay, so
Why don't you talk about them? So
Out the Mud Gardens, they're a small organization that was started by a couple during COVID, actually. And what they do is they go around and help families, regardless of the size of their living space, create something where they can grow food, create something where they can grow plants. And it started because of COVID. It started in order to get folks involved during COVID with gardening, because like we always say, nature is good for the soul. Nature is good for your mental health, right? You take a walk down the street and see cars and buildings, and then you take a walk down the street and see ocean and trees. We're gonna have a change of mind. But Out the Mud Garden was started, and they started out of their own pockets. Not even asking for donations. They did this to get families involved. They did this to get communities involved. And they're an amazing organization, and they are still getting started. And they're one of our partners of Black Earth Day. So if they're on here listening, I really appreciate you, and we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and to add on to that question that you had before, I just want to plug in something really quick.
Uh-oh.
So iUrban Teen, we are developing some free workshops open to anybody really, but I am trying to create a soil testing workshop. And so that would look like going on to our plot at Rainier Community Center and figuring out if indeed on this 9 foot of soil, which was capped on the landscape, on the landfill, if that actually does affect the soil quality that we're going to hopefully be planting in if the test comes back good. And so I'm definitely trying to get Brittany Johnson, she's with the University of Washington, to help with the soil analysis part. But the Sound Bio Laboratory, which is a laboratory-based community education nonprofit, they have allowed us to use their space, and I'm looking forward to leading these workshops and having students or the community learn how to do soil testing of nitrogen, phosphate, pH, and things like that, and then having some help with urban soil contamination analysis with the University of Washington. And that was actually with Dr. Melanie Malone's research group. So hopefully we can get this all connected. We really want to create a community that is inclusive. I know we are really aiming to get all these little community farms in Seattle connected because we do have shared missions at some point. And so creating this strong network will only create a stronger community that we want to help serve in Seattle.
Yeah, it's incredibly important that we get all organizations that specifically serve underserved populations together, because we can go, you can go fast alone, but you can go further together. We could really create a network of different organizations that really are here to uplift people and uplift people of all cultures, of all races, of all sexual orientations, of all genders, and really do something great. and I'm really, really fortunate to have been able to be up here with you guys. This has been an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible getting our next environmental justice event in particular coming up is going to be called Farm Days. So they start in August, and Farm Days are a little more intimate than Black Earth Day, and we really get into the weeds of like the scientific studies of things and ways in which we could implement stuff during the legislative session. Because this upcoming legislative session is going to be a long session. And there's going to be a lot of bills coming through that died or were killed last time, and we post updates on our social media and our website as the legislative session gets closer. And I'm hoping that we could put together cohorts of community that do environmental justice stuff to come down to Olympia, because for our last legislative session we partnered with a wonderful organization called Front and Centered, and they're an incredible organization for getting the word out there, for helping create a climate that bridges community together, that bridges farms with nonprofits, with scientific studies.
You bring up a great point. I think, environmental justice, from our point of view is trying to get folks out on the land, experiencing nature, health, spiritual health, physical health, economic health, right? In terms of, of that. But all of those efforts really are supported by the work of government, right? And so, we're lucky that Seattle is a city that supports this sort of thing. And so we've gotten some grants from the city. Okay. We're lucky that the county supports this sort of thing. We're leasing county land that they have kept in conservation and has not been developed, or we're lucky the state does. But we need to support those organizations, those institutions, right?
Yeah.
The government, right? And the way they get support is for people to show up and talk to them and tell them what we need. So we as a community can get together and go down, and it's great. The Urban League gives us an opportunity to be able to go do that and get in front of folks and lobby for what we want. Talk about why is it important that the Black Farmers Collective exists, right? I mean, we're here to support Black leadership on the land, but it's not just about Black people. It's about all people doing better. And so I think, if we can leave today's session with this idea that, you have your personal work about trying to do better for yourself and your family. You've got your community work about supporting other people and your extended family and neighbors about being more healthy and get more access to the environment. And then you've got that next level of work, which is to go ahead and with friends, raise their voice, raise each other's voice, and then get in the position to tell folks that have some power, hey, we need this. We would love for you to continue to support urban farming, support environmental justice, and social justice. It's all the same. It's just justice. And we all need to raise each other's voice in order to try to make that happen. So speaking of raising a voice, we want to thank Rainier Avenue Radio for giving us a little bit of time here. And, please stay tuned, because this is going to be a great week of environmental conversations. And think about being a part of that. Thank you. Black Farmers Collective, connect at blackfarmerscollective.org.
iUrban Teen at iurbanteen.org. Learn a little bit more about programs there and sign up for our newsletter.
Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle.org. Reach out to the advocacy and community engagement team. And don't forget to vote, y'all, too.
Okay. Got to do it. Thank you. So we made it.